Hiya fellow Blood Bowl fans, welcome to this part 2 of painting Varag Ghoul. So that's where we left him after part 1. More than gameable, guys, more than gameable. But I want to do some extra bits to him to make him pop as deserved. So, without further ado, we will start working on some of the extra bits. So the first thing we're going to do is highlight up his trousers. Okay, so we'll go to the original colour that we used, which is Steel Evension Drab. I'm going to put some of the paint on my wet palette. Okay, tiniest bit of water. And the easy as, guys, really, I'm just going to pick out those real high points. Okay. Picking out the high points. Leaving the shadows in there. Okay. We're sort of almost taking it back to its base colour, aren't we? Think about where the light would fall. It's a beautiful thing now with models. It's kind of done for us. It's like obviously there's crease lines there, so obviously the light's going to be on that higher area. See what I mean? Yeah. Preempting myself there we go. And just think about where the light falls, where it would hit. Think if it was real, obviously it'd be dangerous going down the streets if it was real. But where would the light land? Okay. And that's it, that's the secret highlighting, is just thinking, okay, so if this was real, like across here, for example, the top would have it and then it'd stop. Okay? Same principle that side, top of his thighs, a little bit down into the middle, then it stopped because he's still got a shadow under there. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so that's getting there. Just want to hit that area again. Yeah, and we just build it up, same as we did with everything else. We're just going to build it up. Okay. Now it was only his trousers, if I remember, that were painted in this colour. But obviously, if you're doing a model and you have the same colour on there, do all the highlights of the same colour at the same time. Okay, it really does save time. Okay, so there we go. So what we're going to do now, that'll dry relatively quite quickly. Okay, so while we're closing up our paint, we're now going to bring in Shanty Bone. Give that a shake. And the theory here, our palette, we're going to have some Shanty Bone and we're going to mix a lighter tone. Okay, I don't need a lot, look. And all I'm doing here, I'm just mixing the colours together until I'm happy with it. Okay, so now I've made an off colour. Alright. Now I'm going to enter a smaller brush. And all I'm going to do here, guys, is just go over the top again. But just the even higher points. Okay? So things like that. Just give that a bit of a touch. Yeah? So we're doing the same principle, just less of it. again, we're just building it up as we go. Okay, and I'm looking for just those really high points, and straight away this really does sort of add to it. You see what I mean? And we just work our way around. Obviously here we're going to have a high point there. Similar principle here. So obviously he's got these rather firm buttocks, as you would say. Okay. And we just want to highlight that. So where the light would land, or its top point. Yeah, don't be afraid to get stuck in there. I'll stop talking now because we are talking about his bum, aren't we? Okay. Area here. Yeah. So I'm literally just going across. Thinking if this was a real muscle, where would the light land? And where would it not land as well is also quite a good thing to think about. And that's it, there's no secret to highlighting. Okay? So now we've got like realistic leather looking trousers. Well, not leather, what would they be? Canvas? Skin? Elk? Not elk. He's an orc, isn't he? What would it be? Gore-grunter. Do we think Gore-grunter? That's what they ride, isn't it? Not in Blood Bowl land, obviously, because they settle the differences on the pitch. So obviously there, the front of his leg is charging forward. So these areas would have a higher highlight, higher concentration of that light. Okay. I'm still going to touch those areas as we go down. Yeah, so there we go. You see how that's sort of like built up, and it looks realistic is probably the best way of doing it. Okay, so I'm quite happy with it. You could go as far as you want with that, guys. You really, really can go as far as you want, but I'm happy with that. Okay, and we're now quite simply going to repeat that process over the rest of the model. So for example, the belts. We originally did Mornfang Brown. Okay, so I'm going to bring out my Mornfang into my wet palette. And his belt areas, because we've used that shade, the shade areas are already in there for us. Okay, so just think about leaving those in a bit, and it really is as straightforward as that. I think I managed to block the whole camera with a brush there, so I do apologise. Under there. Yeah, so we're just picking it back up again. Okay, I'm going to do that around all the areas of this, thinking about where the light would fall. Yeah. It just makes the miniature pop, brings it to life a little bit more, which is what we want. Yeah. On this side here. Okay, he's got like a buckle, so I'll just touch on that. I'm going to go back to that side and just build it up. Okay, so obviously he's got boots as well. A bit easier on the boots, isn't it? Because we know exactly where we want to be going. So like there, the side. You can control the level of your highlights by how many of these layers you go around. Okay, I'm happily just touching them on because he's not going to be a display piece. I thoroughly intend to use him in the games, but I do just like a bit of a highlight on my models. I just think it looks better, to be honest with you. But having said that, you could happily just follow part 1 of a highlighted up miniature and quite happily get your gaming in, you know? That's what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, we're just going to go around and build those up. So, the Ghoul, he is having a bad day, I think, isn't he, there? Okay. And then the gloves. So on the gloves, same principle. I'm going to build it down from the top, thinking about where the light would fall. There's no massive secret to this. It is really as easy as that. Okay? Slightly on that side, because bear in mind that the light would still fall from there, but obviously he blocks quite a lot of that. And then this side here, top of there. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is give you an example on the belt, for example. And funnily enough, enter trusty Ushabti-bone. And we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did previously, guys, and we're going to mix it in now. Here's my smaller brush here because I don't use much of this. Okay, there we go. So I've gone down a tone. And if I give you an idea here, so for example, yeah, so I'm just doing it in little lines all around the side. Picking out his belt. Okay, around the front. Like I say, I'm not an award-winning painter or anything like that, but that gives you an idea as to how you can quickly and easily just highlight it up. You know, belt, straps, leather, things like that. I'm going to finish off the rest of the straps and the gloves, guys, using exactly the same process, and then I'll come back to you. And there we go. So that's the boots, belts, straps all highlighted up. What we're going to do now is pick out anything that's bone coloured. So step in Ushabti-bone. Okay, we're going to straight in with a small brush, and we're just using it by itself. Okay. And again, we're just going to build it up. Do exactly the same thing. So the skull. And down the back of the skull like that. Just being as careful as we can, really, guys. It doesn't take a great deal of work, just picking bits out. And you go as far or as low as you want with this. Okay, you could do 10 different layers if you wanted to. I'm not sure if you'd get much variation out of 10 different layers, but you could if you wanted to. You know, you go as far as you want to with it. It is your model and your hobby, as we always say. Okay, and I'm just going around again. Same principle. Anything that's bone. We did those bone, didn't we? So just slightly on the back. There we go. These little strap things, we did these in a bone, like a thread. Probably the sinews of his victims. Threads there at the side. front and the back. Okay. A bit difficult to see this bit, guys, I apologise. So, I have ordered a light though. So, thank you to the comments previously. I have ordered a painting light, like an LED ring light. So, once it's here, the next videos we will have some actual better light on the subject matter. So, I'm still a bit of an amateur YouTuber. I have a full-time job which I thoroughly enjoy. This is really a sort of hobby or passion, painting and so on and so forth. So we will expand at a slower rate. And that's nothing against these people that do it via Patreon and stuff like that. No issues with that whatsoever. It's just, I don't know. I don't think it's for me, really. I'm a guy that enjoys his hobby and just likes to do it for the sake of the hobby, you know. So, and he's got one little. I don't know if these are supposed to be flints or whatever, but we've done them like bone. There you go. He's obviously braided out something's tooth, hasn't he? And he's, you know, quite happily not knacked a troll or whatever it is. Right, the horn. So because we did the brown on the end, again, it's just as easy as work up to the end, just leaving a bit less than before. Okay, and just keep going with it, guys, until you're happy with it. You know, it's, yeah, you see what I mean? So you've got like sort of colour blend going on. And just keep going. Okay? He's got obviously tusks as well, hasn't he? Which we will do the same thing to. Just in a bit more. Specific sort of area. We're going to go over those with a brown shortly. Okay, I'm just picking out those highlight areas for the bone. And that's all metal under there, isn't it? So, there we go. So that's the first stage highlight for the bone. If you spare me 2 seconds, I'll just get my next colour that I need. Okay, so to highlight bone, we're going to mix in Corax White. Okay. Really is simple as that. We don't need a great deal of this, guys. Okay, we're making a lighter bone colour basically. And to give you an example, just exactly the same thing as we did before. I'm just touching the very high points here. Oh. Yeah. Building it up. There we go, one skull. That's how you can relatively quickly paint skulls on miniatures. Yeah, relatively straightforward. Simple process. End of his teeth. It looks like he's been smashed in the face, but I can't imagine many people would have the ability to do that. I don't know. What do you think? Is Varag a gouge worth taking? Okay, so the next stage in my Blood Bowl journey is actually, you know, playing the game, and I've been told I'm insane, but I'm going to play ogres because I like them basically, and you know, they're not for everybody. Some people have straight up told me they're not good, but I don't really care. I'm playing for fun, and I just like the idea of a load of ogres on the page. It sort of harks back to I was a massive fantasy player, massive Warhammer fantasy player. Loved it, absolutely loved it. I'm not saying I dislike Sigmar. I've just got some bits and pieces to start experimenting in that universe. But I had an ogre army, And I think I'm going to do my Blood Bowl team with the same colours and whatnot as my ogres wear, as an homage to them. So, but we'll see. I've been told they're not brilliant, but again, does it matter? I don't know. I don't think I'll ever be winning any trials. Well, I'll certainly not be winning with ogres because apparently they don't do anything. But you know, I will be happy if I smash a few faces in. Let's put it that way. Sounds right violent, don't I? I promise you I'm not. Oh dear. So the arms again, I'm just same principle. Now you cross the top. Just build it up really. Just, you know. Underneath I'm quite happy to leave, to be honest with you. So the light would not be hitting that, would it? Okay, down from the top. There we go. We've got like a sort of transition on that spike. It's a bit flat there. There we go. So I'm quite happy so far with that. I think it's coming on. Let's have a Mr. Tooth. There we go. Okay, so that's the bone done as far as I want to go with it. Okay, and you some people would want to go further than that. What I will just do, and having noticed that, is I am just gonna break that sort of straight edge up a bit. Okay. Yeah, quite happy with that. So what we're going to do now is let him dry, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at his black armour. Okay. Okay, so when we're talking about his black armour, Varag seems to keep quite good care of his armour, so we're going to do some highlights on the black, and we're going to use Mechanicum Standard Grey. So, small brush again, guys, we don't need a great deal of this. Put a tiniest bit of water into it on our palette, and this really is, we're going to go around the edges. Okay. Just using the edge of our brush, just to highlight out the panels a little bit. Okay, across the bottom there. Just think about, again, where the light would fall, and how we can make it just pop, bring it to life a little bit. Okay. Under his chin we're gonna leave because it'd be so dark under there you wouldn't see it anyway. Okay. On the side, on the back, we're gonna use the edge of our brush again. And just go around that. Okay, so it just sort of, it's highlighting it, but sort of like in a cheating way, really, I guess. Okay. Same principle I'd take to painting in things like marines, things like that. Yes, this is probably the most time-consuming bit. A little bit much there. All will be fine. There we go. And just keep picking it out and building it up. Okay. Down this side. So he has like a curve here. And across the top of it, just with a line. A little bit more grey. Okay. Water. So things like this aspect. He has this spike that's protruding. Same at this side. Across the top. Then towards the point. Okay. There's no points on there. That panel there, slightly raised area there, which we'll just draw a line down. Try and get in the side there. Okay, and it just brings it to life, you know, it just again, it just makes it look more realistic. That's the... This side here. So onto the teeth now, aren't we? I think they're supposed to be teeth. Okay, get in there. And again, you can go as far or as little as you want with this. The idea is that we're just drawing the eye to the areas that we want. I'm using the side of the brush, guys, side of the brush, okay? Like that, for example. Across the bottom. Okay, so we're getting there. Knee guards. Knee pads, knee guards. Same principle. Because that's quite a raised area, we can use the side of the brush. Okay. Then the bottom. I'm not following every single panel line, just the ones that I want to make pop. And that's not to say you can't go around every panel line if you choose to, you know, if that's your thing, by all means. For me, I'm quite happy to pick out the key ones. To the side of a brush. Okay, so we're getting there, inside of that leg. And the toes. Steel caps or whatever they are. Okay, down the front of it and down the sides. So he's soon picking out, do you see what I mean? So back of this pad here, look. Bit much on there, but there you go. Okay, so with that, I'm happy that the lining's done. So the grey can go away. However, Varag is an orc, so we're going to use lead belcher and add some areas of sort of chipping and things like that. Okay. Ooh, shake that up again. There we go. Don't need a lot of this. And I'm just going to think about areas that I think might look quite cool with chipping. And I'm just dabbing it on, okay? Areas where it naturally might have come away. So things like that we might want to end it there, for example. Okay. Not going over this, over and over and over the top of it, because I do want it to, like that, for example, you might have had somebody blocked somebody there. Yeah. It just breaks the black up a little bit. Yeah, it's still black. Okay. Chipping, think about from the edge. Yeah. On the back here, so he's got some sort of like pick marks there. And then we'll maybe do one up there. Again, we don't want to overdo it. We'd like to think maybe he looks after his armour. Who knows, he is an orc at the end of the day. That area there we went a little bit too high on. Let's chip it away. Yeah. Okay, knee pad. Yeah. And I'm just putting these really wherever I think it looks cool. That's actually metal anyway, so let's just give that a cheeky little highlight. And then chip away at the top. Okay. On the side here maybe. Maybe he's got a bit of chip in there. Yeah, and I'm happily going over the highlights I put on it. Just to break it up and make it look a bit more lived in. That's probably the best way. Boots would probably chip quite a lot. Yeah. Okay, and I'm just going around it, picking out what I think looks cool. So there, for example, let's have a chip in from the side there. Okay, now I don't want to overdo it, because obviously I want him to look like he cares a little bit about his armour. I know he's an orc, but hey ho. While we've got our initial colour out, we're going to highlight up the actual metals on the model. And the way we're going to do this, really simple guys, edge of the brush to the front, to any raised areas, like that. Yeah. You might want a few lines on it down the side, because it's quite a large piece. Top of the handle, on the edge a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that area is like a brass. So what we'll do, we'll just put some lines on it like that. Side of the brush for the chainmail. Touching the highest areas. Turning them round for the back. Yeah. Top of his boot. And then we'll just drag the brush down a little bit there. Back of that boot. Okay, so it's coming along. We've got a little bit more chainmail needed, I think. Tiniest bit of water, guys. Things like that. And then the edges of these. All the way along. This one here is a bit more difficult because you can't really get the flat of the brush to it. So just line along it. Yeah. Areas like there. They're sort of held on, aren't they? Pinned on, so to speak. Belt buckles. Top here there's a buckle. And that there, for example, is a bit of grey there, so I'm just going to turn it into a chip. Bit brown there, not grey. Okay, and keep turning it around. Keep thinking, right? Yeah, well, am I happy with this? Yeah. Am I? You know, what else do I want to add to it? Edges of those, so there would be like a hoop, so to speak, and then the end of the horns. Okay, it's coming along. This little taffel thing. And then we just keep going around, thinking about the areas. Well, why would it actually be silver? Well, they're like hoops holding them on. So bang that silver. Going around there, I'm quite happy with the rest of it. Okay, so he's really getting there. What we'll do, we're going to do one last metallic highlight. I'll just come back to you once I've got the paint. And that paint is Stormhole Silver. Now this is really bright, and it's what I use on things like my Imperial Nobility will use this more. However, it is still really handy just to give really sharp highlights to metal. Yeah. So, and I'm talking just these end lines. Really sharp highlights. Okay. Things like this here. Let's just have a across the top of those. On the very tips. The very ends of this. Because obviously we don't want it, we still want it to look like an orc. But we want that highlighted metal look. Edge of the brush here. Yeah. Now I'm just going to add a few lines down the side of that, just to make it look a bit more like something. Down there, top of the bottle, very back of the shoe. Yeah. So can you see how it just adds like a natural sort of shine look to it? Just going around. I've not touched chainmail, as you noticed. I'm just going around, picking the areas out that I want. It's like things like this on the gloves. Just give it a dot on the very end. Yeah. Things like his belt. Side of the brush, pick them out. Top of this handle. Yeah. Ever so sort of sharp little touches that just bring that metal to life. There we go. And then, last but by no means least, our line. Okay, you know I've not touched that chainmail. I don't want to risk sort of overdoing it. I am, however, I'll put a couple of lines like that, just down that side. Okay, so he's really coming along. Now any of the chips that are really big, you might want to go into the middle of those with a bit of silver, just add a bit of depth to it. Okay, only in the middle of them. Don't need to add masses at this stage, okay? it just makes it look like a realistic metal underneath. Okay, and I'm only lightly touching them. Okay. There we go. I think he's coming along, isn't he? And that's metal as well, look, so we'll just go across the top of that and down. So he's really coming along. Last stage on the armour is, remember we put on the white markings? So these things on the shoulder pad. What we're going to do is we're just going to go over those again in Corax White. Again, it doesn't need to be masses of colour. And literally, apologies guys, I'm sending you on a roller coaster there. It just adds depth to it. That's the word we're looking for. Depth. Okay. Which brings it to life a little bit more on his shoulder. Okay. So there we go. So at that point, I'm quite happy with the armour. I think it looks orky, yet still a Blood Bowl player. If we touch back on the skull, one thing that people can do, now I don't do this a lot, is just with pure white, really sort of just pick out the very extremes on the skull. Okay? Things like his teeth. Yeah, things like that. Now, we may eventually want to put, I don't know, a player number on there, something like that. And that's entirely up to you. He is Varag at the end of the day. He's a bit of a monster, isn't he? So, I don't know. I don't know if we'll eventually put a player number there. Who knows? Okay, so that's metal done. It's white done, the bone done, and all of the straps and whatnot. We're going to have a look at the Tuft of Plume that he has, and then come back to you. Okay, so our Varag is starting to look pretty cool, but I want to do something with the plume. And the way we're going to do it, we're going to do a basic stages. So corn red. It's the colour we started with, guys. If we remember, if you've watched the first video, on the palette. And what I'm doing here, I'm just going over the top. Surprise, surprise, eh? I'm going over the top. Like we have on all the other aspects. And I'm literally just going to build it up. So, same as before. You know, really is the same as before. Areas where the light would fall. Get that red on there. Okay. You know. There we go. So that's the corn red over the top. Now, we're going to repeat exactly the same process, but with Mephiston red, which is not a red, it's just a lighter red. Okay, put the next one on the palette, you see what I mean. Okay, exactly the same principle. Over the top, add in a bit of that depth to it. Okay. thinking about where the light would fall, and also where we naturally would expect it to be lighter. Okay. Bit more difficult to show you this bit, guys, I'm afraid, underneath there. There we go. Around the tips, obviously, are going to be lighter. And this is an approach you can take to painting all kinds of hair. It's simple as that, really. While the Mephiston's out. Oh, excuse me. Eager to play Blood Bowl, you see, that's what it is. While the Mephiston's out, I'm going to take a tiny dot of it. I'm going to dot that red eye that we did. Okay. I don't know if it would have a red eye, I just think it looks pretty cool. There we go. Bit like I have a red eye of doom. Okay. And last thing for the hair. We've still got Mephiston on the palette. We need to take a bit of Uriel yellow. I'm going to mix a tiniest bit of that into the red, making an orange. And then I'm just going to go back over to the very edges. Side of the brush, yeah. Just pick it out a little bit, so we've got like a red orange on there. Okay, front, yeah. Good way of doing plumes, tufts, speed freaks, things like that, yeah. To the edges. Okay. And I'm quite happy with that. I think it's enough. You know what I mean? It's enough. While that mixes out, we'll also try and dot the eye. Okay, done. So that's his plume done, and his googly eye, so to speak. Speaking of eyes, we're now going to take a dot of Uriel onto our palette. Pure Uriel. And we're going to try and do his other eye, which I in my head, I see this as a normal eye. There we go. We'll do a pupil in there later. The Ghoul, we're just going to leave the Ghoul. Okay, so currently, obviously, he's got like quite a massive yellow eye, but we will add a pupil into that as we go along. But that's his plume done. That's his armour done. That's his boots, his trousers, straps, bone effects, things like that are all completed now. Major thing left to do is his skin and the Ghoul. So we'll let him dry, then we'll come back for that stage. Okay, so we're ready to look at Varag's skin, aren't we? And if you remember from the previous video, this is wire flesh with I'll be painting a dark tone over it. And the first thing we're going to do, guys, is take our wire flesh again, and just like we've done on the rest of the miniature, it's just give him a bit of a highlight. So I'm using my sort of normal size brush for this. Okay, just on the wet palette again. Okay, and all we're going to do, same principle, is just highlight the raised areas. I'm leaving the very darkest areas still shaded. To give that light effect, okay? And this is the first stage for all over the flesh. Thinking of anywhere where the light would land, so like the top of the muscles, back of the arm there, elbow, that joint, and also the muscle definition here. So we're not going all the way into like the armpit and things like that. I don't think you'd want to go there anyway, would you? But top of those muscles, yeah. In this area here, so he has like a neck. Well, we know he's got a neck, don't we? But you know what I mean. His ears. Side of the head. And then on the face. So on the face, we're going to make sure the brush is catching the raised areas, eyebrows, cheeks. Okay. Okay, so that's the first step. Oh, and obviously on his back as well. Okay, so wash our brush out. The next stage, I'm going to use wire green. Okay. And we're going to repeat the process. It's a bit of wire green. It's quite a sharp contrast, that. So what we're going to do, because he's a black orc, is mix it in with a bit of the previous stage. And then we're going to do exactly the same principle again, but just not as much. Okay? Just highlighting out those areas where the light would fall. Okay? Top of the muscles. And it just gives a more sort of natural skin look to it. And the astute among you will just notice, like I have, that I've got to his hands. This is how I would approach orc flesh in every sort of area that you would find it, basically. It's just the same as any other colour. It's just because it's flesh, it doesn't mean nothing to be scared of. Yeah? Face. Okay. So we've not gone in as far into that. And we've left a sort of darker tone underneath and a lighter tone on top. Top of the muscles, we'll just make sure that we touch those again. Okay, and we're going to go back and just repeat the process on his hands. We've got our original colour there. Typically, these things happen. So, hands, I'm just sort of, again, it's where the light would land. So I'm just touching the top areas there. This here, he has like a punch mitt. Is that the right word? Is there a proper name for that? Blood Bowl experts, which I certainly am not. Okay. And while the hands are drying, we'll go back to our lighter mix, just into the neck. Alright. And the hands are pretty dry, just on his knuckles, top of his knuckles. Yeah, and it just builds up that sort of natural skin tone you expect to see on an orc, so to speak. There we go. Okay, So we're getting there. We're going to now close our wire green and go to Skarsnik green. And there's going to be no surprise here, guys. What we're going to do is mix them into that next stage. See how I've got like a blend going? And I'm mixing it in there until I'm happy with it. Okay? And what I'm going to do, I'm now going to repeat the process. Yeah, so obviously this is a lot higher. So I'm not using as much of it. Top of the muscles again. Elbow. Down this side. And it's with the lightest of touches you suddenly have a blended skin, if that makes sense. And very top of the knuckles. And you can sit and you can wet blend skin to your heart's content and stuff like that, but this to me, it makes it pop, but it's still a gaming piece. On the front. Into the things like the ear. Last just touched on his neck. Okay, now for the face, I'm going to break out my smaller brush. Here we go. Using this mix, we're going to pick out those areas. So at the top of the eyebrows. Under his eye. Okay, there we go. Simple as that. We might want to go even sharper, but he is a black orc, so it's like, for example, now you can tell he's an orc. We might, on lighter things like goblins, I would start with War Boss. I wouldn't start with War. So start with a lighter tone. What we are going to do on his face, we're going to use Skarsnik by itself. The lightest amount. Okay? And we're just going to bridge the nose. Oh, we've got a slight error there. For errors, if you wet the brush, you can actually brush it away. And there we go. Okay, so one simple, quick and easy orc skin. Okay, so the last thing really to do, we're looking at a pupil in the eye, and then this thing here, this ghoul. Now to do the ghoul, I'm actually going to use Ogryn Camo. And I'm going to mix that, because the ghoul is quite green, isn't it? Into our base colour here. Okay? It's like a dead flesh sort of look to it. And it's simple as, guys, I'm just going to highlight the tops again. Yeah, top of his head. Now I'm not going as in detail as I did on Varag here, because we are going to apply a wash to the top of this, just to make it look even more icky, undead. But these sort of light green tones are a really good way if you paint on dead or you want zombies, things like that. They're a good way just to make that happen with not a great deal of difficulty. Okay, so even just with one highlight, you can see that he's starting to look like he's a corpse, so to speak, which is what we want. We might now also just take pure Ogden camo. And touch the very tops. Very top of his shoulder. Yeah. Essentially repeating what we've done with Varag. Yeah. Just to make it look like this guy's had a bad day. And well, he had a bad day initially, I suppose. He's a Ghoul, isn't he? But he encountered the Ghoul. Sure. There we go. And we'll be coming back and applying a wash to that when that's dry. So that is he's getting there. So what we're going to do is come back with finishing touches, base and the Ghoul. Okay, so he's certainly coming along, isn't he? So for his eye, we're going to try and dot it into small brush and Corvus black. Okay, now this isn't easy, guys. It never is. Eyes are hard. We all know that, don't we? Eyes are hard. Ta-da! Just a really quite simple line down the middle. Okay, so that'll be his eye. For the Ghoul, we're going to use Xerus Purple and some Agrax Earthshade. Okay, now what I mean by that, I'm going to take some Agrax Earthshade. I love Agrax Earthshade. Anyone that knows me will attest to that. And I'm going to put a couple of brush loads on my wet palette, which is unusual for shade. Yes. Wash the brush out. And then we get a small dot of purple, and I'm going to mix it in. Okay. I'm then going to add a dot of water, and this is making a purpley shade wash, basically. Yeah, and it's just, purple's a good colour for dead things, particularly on top of green. It just makes it look even more dead, for want of a better word. Okay, there we go. On the back, there we go. So I think when that's dry, that'll look suitably rotten. Okay, so what we're now going to do is his base. Now, for my orcs, I think I'm going to go along the lines of the stone floored base. Okay, so I'm going to use Mechanicum Standard Grey, and I'm going to not essentially dry brush, but a bit of a wet dry brush, if that makes sense. Probably not. And we're going to apply a reasonable amount. And because obviously I have textured the base, I'm careful with it. I want to leave a bit of black in the recesses and so on and so forth. So it's like a sort of semi-heavy brush. Okay. While that's drying, we'll come back with our Corvus and we'll do the lip of the base. Go around the lip of the base. I like Corvus. It's like an off black, isn't it? A really dark grey sort of colour. Don't know, just something about it. There we go. Okay, put him down. So we're just going to let that dry, and we'll come back. Final touches to the base, maybe a tuft, and then we've got a completed Varag Ghoul. Okay, so some final touches. There he is. He's looking pretty cool, isn't he? I like this. I like that sort of purplish tint to the dead flesh on his body. You could go to sort of putting blood effects on and things like that. I'm not massively into that, unless it really befits the army. It might befit Varag, I don't know. Agrex Earth Shade. Okay, what we're going to do, straight out the pot, top of the base. Okay, so yes, it's like the dungeon floor style thing. Not that there might be a dungeon ball coming in. Yes, it's like the dungeon floor. Bottom of his boots. Don't forget the bottom of his shoes, guys. Okay. So that'll dry, that'll give it a bit of instant sort of texture, so to speak. And through the magic of YouTube, this is going to dry straight away. There we go, pretty much dry. So, wash aside. We're now going to add a couple of just little tufts. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to use my PVA glue. Tiniest little drop on there. I don't want to over tuft it. The reason being, it's like the I don't know, what is it, the Astro Granite? So we'll have just two tiny little tufts on there. So dots of PVA. We'll have tiniest one at the front. And these are Army Painter Wasteland tufts. Flatten down a bit. I like the idea of tufts on the pitch. I can't imagine orcs would look after their pitch very well. And this will be the same basin that I use for my ogres as well. So obviously the ball will still fit on there. There we go. So when that's dry, we have one completed Varag Ghoul tour. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, guys. It's just it's how to basically take a simple sort of shaded miniature and just add a bit of vavavoom to it. He's ready to wreck some face on the Blood Bowl pitch, and I hope you are too. So wherever you are, I hope you're keeping well. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment and subscribe. Share your thoughts, share your own experiences of painting. And anyone who's got any tips for Blood Bowl, fire them my way, because I really do need them. But for now, guys, happy hobbying, enjoy your Blood Bowl, and take care.